Yo, what's going on, friends? I got a pretty interesting video for you. I got home from the gym late last night, decided to play a couple games, record them for some background footage, for some like talk videos, and the first one I got into was an interesting one. It was a really long game. No spoilers, obviously, you can probably assume why with the current DBD meta. We're playing against a dredge. And I noticed right away he wasn't really kicking generators, even though they were like maybe 5 or 10%. So I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe he doesn't actually have a gen build. A lot of times what you'll see is killers will just kick gens, even if they're like 5, 10%, to proc like overcharge, call it brine, to prepare for eruption, something like that. But he wasn't doing it why this Michaela was running him around the gen. But I decided to run to a different gen because obviously Michaela wanted to use these tiles and I didn't want to be nearby in case he decided to, come to me for a free hit. Although when I hopped on this second gen, worked on it for a little bit, he was finally able to down the Michaela. Usually you can tell right away if they hook somebody, chances are they might have a Scourge perk, like a Scourge Hook Pain Resonance, which he indeed does. If you notice, you could hear Claudette scream across the map. He then proceeded to kick the gen, which hardly had any progress, and then he teleported. So I kind of already had an inclination that this game was probably going to be pretty grindy. Scourge Hook, probably Eruption, maybe Overcharge. So yeah, I kind of had a feeling I was in for a long one, or probably what most likely would be a 10-minute loss. People would probably die, leave DC, whatever the case might be. So after rescuing Michaela here off the hook, I wanted to call her over to my gen because I know that the killer was probably going to be over in this area. Wanted to make sure I could maintain and keep as much of the gen progress as humanly possible. He kicked it mid-chase, so I wanted to go make sure Overcharge wasn't on it, or if it was, I got it. Also, Call It Brian could decimate the gen. As you saw, Overcharge. Now, generally Overcharge by itself really isn't that scary. The skill check is pretty easy to hit. But now we know 2 of his perks, right? We know he has Hook Pain Resonance and he has Overcharge. So this is pretty much going to be a 3 or 4 slowdown, 3-4 gen perk Andy, and yep, there's the third one. Deadlock. Lovely. Now, we kind of are... We're okay because this is kind of a bigger map. Then again, Dredge can teleport from, essentially lockers to locker across the map. So I'm going to try and hover here for Ash. Maybe get a save, relieve some pressure, make sure maybe he can't get another Pain Resonance proc. And yeah, unfortunately Ash goes down, a little bit poor pathing, and there it is. There it is. There's the 4th perk. Yep, if you didn't tell, Michaela definitely screamed there. So we know he has Eruption. Those are all his 4 perks. Fortunately, I wasn't able to get the save because the killer kind of waited. Ash went down in a really bad spot. But I know at this point this game is going to be pretty dang difficult. He has Scourge Hook Pain Resonance, he has Overcharge, he has Eruption, and he has Deadlock. So he has 4 extremely strong perks. Some of them pretty much passive perks in the form of Deadlock and Pain Resonance, because they kind of slow the game down by you just doing your normal thing as killer. But I'm still down to, I'm not just going to give up. I really like to try and get as many people out of these games as seemingly possible because they are really difficult. And generally speaking, if the killer has half a brain, getting 3 or 4 kills should pretty much be standard issue with builds like this. So let's just go on to some chases, I guess, and kind of cut through this 21-minute game. So as you can see, I do not really hesitate to drop some of these pallets and chase. I realize that with this killer's power, they'll most likely put his image down near a pallet, near a tile, basically force me into it, and then I kind of probably lose the 50-50 because it's kind of all in his hands. So I will probably be pre-dropping most of these pallets or trying to secure a stun the best way I can. And if I see an opportunity to maximize the pallet or like the tile strength, I'll loop it like once or twice if I can. But against a smart killer, somebody puts their power down near the pallet, there's not much you can really do. I'm just trying to last long enough and make sure my teammates can get as many gens done as humanly possible, as fast as possible, before somebody inevitably probably dies. Our team was able to get a couple gens done for my chase, so that's kind of valuable. And as you see, I'm actually running a couple perks that sort of combat this meta a little bit with potential energy and fast track. Generally speaking, if the killer's worth their salt or if they're even somewhat good, generally they'll probably be getting hooks. So I'll be getting stacks of fast track, which I'll try and save for like one of the last 2 gens, so I can power through them, especially if they have a proxy. With potential energy, what you can actually do with this perk is try and get stacks before you get progress on a generator. So if a killer does hook somebody with pain resonance, it's not going to pop your gen. So you can kind of use potential energy as a perk to save stacks, go into a 3 gen, go into the last gen between potential energy and fast track with a lot of progress saved up. And it didn't really have a huge impact on this game, but it can help. One of the biggest pain points with Eruption too is that most games are played in a solo queue setting or like a duo setting. Most people don't stack 4 people in communications. So killers kind of take advantage of the fact that solo queue players don't have a way to communicate when they're about to go down. And Eruption is just so strong because of that. Luckily, one of our teammates has a boon totem for Circle of Healing, which is actually going to come in handy quite a lot, especially if the killer doesn't destroy it, because chances are he's either going to use like a 3-gen strategy with gens that are close in proximity, or probably 2 that are close and 1 that's far away near a locker. And he's probably just going to keep going back and forth between the gens, since we're actually getting quite a few done. But the only downside right now is that Ashe is Death Hook. And if the killer is able to get somebody out really soon before we get down to 1 gen, we're going to have a really tough time. Even if we have 1 gen left with 3 people, we still might not be able to finish it with all of his strong perks. Plus, the resources on the map are being used quite fast. I love that both Ashe and I are using potential energy here, and we're able to kind of blast through the generator along with his Prove Thyself, and I'm able to maintain and keep my fast track stacks while Michaela gets hooked. I was kind of worried that maybe she might go down a little bit earlier, and she might get hooked on a Scourge Hook, and the gen would be regressed, hence why I started my potential energy. With only 1 gen left, I think we actually have a really good shot at getting at least like 3 or 4 people out. Unfortunately, Ashe starts getting chased again, and like I said, he is on Death Hook. Also really unfortunate that he had some really weird pathing in main building again and got stuck, and I wasn't able to actually get behind him to take a hit, and ultimately we all know he's gonna die. The killer's not gonna allow me to get a flashlight save. If Ashe didn't get stuck or run into like the wood tile inside, I think I would have been able to get behind him pretty easy to take a hit, and I had 2 free health states, so really sad that his pathing kind of got him killed, but I think we still have a chance to make it from this point. It might just be kind of hard. After a little bit of looping, I do finally go down. I get my first hook. Unfortunately, I look back at the gen that I was working on, and I see Claudette hop into a snowman. Not only that, but there's another gen right next to the one I was working on near the smokehouse. And I honestly, at this point, I was really worried. I thought maybe I might even die or go second on this first hook, just because of the way that Claudette was playing. Considering she doesn't even have a hook state yet, she's full health. The fact that she's already starting to immerse near the gens kind of gives me an idea that maybe she's not going to have, you know, I guess, the willingness to try and complete the gens if the killer's around, which you kind of need to do. Unfortunately, if I'm able to get back over there, I got Sprint Burst, so if I use Sprint Burst smartly, I should be able to work on the gen, leave if the killer comes, wait, go back, etc, etc. Thankfully, though, Claudette does come save me shortly before second. She does take aggro. Unfortunately, though, she does go down decently fast, and it doesn't leave us much time to try and get progression on the generator. And of course, with him being Dredge, he's going to teleport right over. And again, we'll be in another chase, which I'm already injured, so not looking good for me or for the team. Thankfully, though, we got that boon totem, so I can just run over and heal, no problem. At this point, I'm thinking maybe this will be one of the last chases, and I'm going to try and use the window and my, I guess, looping knowledge as best I can to waste as much time as humanly possible. I'm kind of thankful that this killer doesn't actually have the best mind game sense, and he's not really using his killer power effectively to try and secure hits or downs near tiles that don't even have usable pallets. We're really fortunate that he didn't really play to the best of his ability. Just like that, we hit the overcharge skill check. We're able to finish the gen. Thankfully, Michaela was sticking to it pretty hard. No idea where Claudette was in this whole exchange. Well, since we know his whole build, we know he doesn't have NOED or any other crazy endgame perk like No Way Out, so we can pretty much just open the door and leave. Again, no idea where Claudette is. Hopefully, she's safe, or we can try and get her in the end. But yeah, I'm surprised we got all the gens done with only losing one person so far against a 4 slowdown dredge. In preparation for Claudette probably going down because I know there's no usable pallets over here, I start walking so I can get my sprint burst back. He starts to pick up in a favorable position, and I run in for the save. It's an easy flashlight save, and we should be close enough to the door to where my teammates can just run to it, open it, and we can leave. Now, obviously, I wouldn't be me without a little bit of BM at the end, especially considering the build that the killer was running. Me, if you get 3-outed with a build like this, you deserve a couple teabags, maybe some head shakes, a flashlight click or two. Unfortunately, the killer wasn't too happy about that. He was a Windows store, so he was able to communicate with us. He didn't really find what we did, the way we played, I guess maybe the end, to be very nice, even though his build in and of itself wasn't very fun. I guess survivors, because they shake their head or maybe drop a teabag and click their light, I guess they're toxic and cringe players. But the build that you're running, nobody is allowed to say anything about that though, right? I don't know, it's just an interesting sort of tug of war between killer and survivor. You know, survivors teabag or click their light or run a strong build, and the killer can say something, but they can have an equally strong build or shake their head or tunnel somebody out, and survivors aren't allowed to complain. Honestly, at the end of the day, it was kind of a fun game. It was pretty hard. I don't think we should have got even 2 people out, let alone 3. And I think we could have got 4 if Ash had a little bit better pathing and I was able to take a hit for him. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's just a game, right? It's not really that serious.
That's it, the end of the song. Next time you'll sing along.